and welcome to Two Words Wolves Pod, or maybe Two Words Knicks Pod. With me today, Andrew Dukowitz of Zone Coverage. How you doing, Andrew?
Isn't it nice to just see like an entire city embrace Karl Anthony Towns in a way that the Twin Cities never embraced him?
And they definitely never hated him. Knicks fans definitely 12 months ago didn't have all the same frustrations with Cat. Nope, it was always sunshines and rainbows. But unironically, yes, it's been great to watch Cat do all this. I was actually in New York for game 2. I was visiting my brother, so we were bar hopping downtown during that game. Luckily, the Spurs were kind of lucky. The Spurs were on the road. I think if I was in town for game 3 with all the Trump hoopla in town, I don't know if we would have been able to do the same stuff. But yeah, Knicks win game 2. We run down to MSG to watch all the shenanigans. It was craziness. And then they won up themselves last night. Knicks go up 3-1, 29-point comeback. We'll break it down. But holy cow, Cat and the Knicks, just... It's hard to even put into words, but that's a historic game for as crazy of a basketball game, a finals game as you'll see.
Yeah, I mean it historic comeback, right? OG Anunoby goes off. I mean, I know it'll probably be remembered as the OG game, but like I thought Jalen Brunson was phenomenal, like just phenomenal. I like, I don't understand how he gets open. I don't understand, yeah. And then, again, I think you and me have been kind of saying it all playoffs of just like the Spurs run is so against what we know about basketball of like, you have to go into the playoffs and get lumps before you can succeed, that it's also been kind of vindicating that like, this is a New York team that has been there. This is a New York team that has had like playoff scars. OG is won and lost in the playoffs. Josh Hart, Brunson, Mikal Bridges have obviously won and lost, even with their former teams before coming to the Knicks. Cat obviously has had playoffs kind of Western Conference Finals last year with the Knicks. Even before that, the Grizzlies and the Nuggets. So I mean, this is a New York team that's had those battle scars before, and I think we're seeing maybe the start of like the villain era Spurs as Wemby goes down in the finals like this and probably goes and gets 5 times better this offseason and then watch out league. But I mean, it's been awesome. It's just been an awesome finals, and part of that is probably because I am rooting for Karl Anthony Towns pretty heavily in this one, but also like just the fan kind of passion and how New Yorkers are responding to this has been delicious. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, and I'm usually, my default would probably be to cheer against a New York sports team. Not as much the Mets and the Jets, but certainly the Yankees is my childhood boogeyman. Yeah, I agree with you that the Spurs, like, it's not surprising to see them have moments of just like lack of experience in it, but like a 29-point comeback is really, they had to do a lot wrong to even let the Knicks back into the game. And so they score 76 points in the first half. They set a finals record for 3-pointers made in the first half. And then the second half, they only score 30 points and make a total of 8 field goals the entire second half. Like, that's just a level of, I don't even know. Like, they didn't even know where to go for offense. That, to me, that's like the biggest gap in Wembanyama's game, who obviously is a fantastic player at 22 years old to lead your team to the finals is incredible. But like, I don't understand why he takes like a third of his shots from 3. Obviously, I think like the Shaq, like, oh, you got to get your ass in the post stuff is usually dumb, especially if you look at the other team center, Cat. I don't especially agree with that. But like with Wembanyama, especially in the finals, like the regular season is what it is, but like in the finals, like if I'm a Spurs fan, I want him to get some sort of back to the basket game, a hook shot, something like that, or even like he hit a jumper late in the game to put them back up 7 or back up or something like. Take more like just pick and pop free throw line jumpers where it's just like, that is a layup for a guy who's 7.5 foot tall. Like Cat is in playing it perfectly defensively, but he just ultimately like half a foot shorter and Wemby can rise over him. But I wrote down some of the key points of down the stretch of the game. Obviously, you mentioned Brunson is just insane. Him both game 2 and game 4, not really great games before the final stretch of the game, but Brunson just incredible playmaking and shot making down the stretch. The Josh Hart missed layup that could have given them the lead would have gone down as like one of the ultimate like missed opportunities. And then later he misses, the Knicks do take the lead and he misses a box out and the Spurs get 2 free throws and get the lead back. Wemby misses 2 free throws in the stretch of the game. I think it's after the Hart layup, 2 gigantic missed free throws, and then the immediate end of the game. Spurs up 1, Brunson miss or someone misses. Cat tries to back tap the rebound and it goes flying and Fox picks it up. 12 seconds left. Spurs are up 1. And instead of pulling it out for 2 free throws, he goes up and OG blocks him. Next possession, Brunson gets a 3 off. They double team Brunson and OG, his man goes to double Brunson. OG cuts to the rim, tips it back in. That'll be one of the OG play will be, that's an all-time finals moment, especially if the Knicks close this out here in one of the next 3 games. And then the final play of the game, the Spurs won like what's called like an elevator action where they get a guy run to the rim and Castle was open. And kind of this morning, it's kind of come out, Cat tipped that final pass. That pass was a lob at the rim and it died short, not because of whoever threw it, but because Cat got enough of his fingertips on it and that sealed the game. And if Cat, I honestly think Castle was open enough. If Cat doesn't get his mitts on that ball, the Spurs probably make a layup and win this game. So just an all-time game 4. And I guess the series isn't over, but of those plays, did you have what stood out most?
I mean, obviously like the OG putback, right? Like game winner, 1 second left in New York. Like that is going to be on the finals video package, just like the blocked by James is going to be on the finals video package forever. Cause like they missed that offensive rebound.
Whatever he's working on with his phone.
Rebound. They missed that layup. It's a 2-2 series heading back to San Antonio. And I think San Antonio then looks at it of like, we took New York's best punch in that second half and we survived it. Like we can do anything, which that's the crazy thing about basketball, right? Is like that layup hits front iron and bounces off. Like Spurs are probably favored to win this series by a lot, but because that layup goes in with 1 second left, I mean, New York is going to win it. Like winning 3 straight games against this Knicks team, I don't think is possible. So it's that one for me. I mean, the other one is watching it this morning of like seeing Cat get just a fingertip on that ball that breaks up the kind of game-winning play that San Antonio drew up. Those are, it would be OG putback number 1, Cat breaking that up number 2. And the Cat one, it's simply because like we've seen him do so many boneheaded things here in Minnesota, and to see him kind of get the vindication of like, nope, he was the one that kind of sealed that game is just, it just means a lot. You know what I mean? Like I obviously didn't get my credentials until after Cat was gone, but as a fan, as someone who wrote about him quite a bit over the 4 years I was writing about the Wolves before I got credentials, like it just means a lot to see him get that moment and kind of get celebrated this morning. To your other point of just the Spurs though, like Wemby missing free throws, to your point about like Wemby not going to the rim much. I mean, he's 7'6" and he shot under 50% from the floor. Like I don't understand how that happens. And it just seemed like down the stretch, like they were just shell shocked. They didn't know what to do. They didn't know what actions to get into. They didn't know what was working. And I do think some of that is like Wemby, Castle, and Dylan Harper are all really young players, which, you know, in those moments, I think pressure and experience and age, and I mean, Madison Square Garden was going insane last night. Like, I can't even imagine trying to call a play in that to draw something up. And I think, at a certain point, we see it with the Wolves a lot this season. Like, guys are just trying to get a bucket to go in. So they start taking those shots a step further back than they normally would. They start ignoring the game plan a little bit because they're just like, if I can just get one. And it really felt similar what the Spurs had happened to them in the second half. It really felt kind of it felt familiar of just like, okay, we've seen this before in the Target Center where a team is just desperate to see something go in and it falls off the rails.
Yeah, absolutely. To go back to the OG tip in, I think your point of if that rebound goes off in any other direction, the Spurs get the rebound. If it comes up short and goes off front rim, but like it needed to come off exactly, almost exactly in that spot for OG to get it, and that also kind of to give the Spurs more PTSD is if you look back at Game 6 of the 2013 Finals with the Ray Allen shot, they get I believe two offensive rebounds on that possession. Um, if if that the Bosch rebound, if that goes anywhere else, the Spurs win that title in 6, and
Yep.
LeBron's career is totally different. Maybe the 14 finals are different. If who knows? So that was kind of reminiscent. But let's talk about Cat because it was a classic Cat game in pretty much good or bad, pretty much every way. He picks up 2 fouls. It's like a minute 15 into the game.
Yeah.
Both of them, if I were a Knicks fan, would have annoyed the living crap out of me. The first one, I think, is technically the right call. He's not in quote legal guarding position. If I don't necessarily like that, that's how the rule is officiated, but it is. It was a foul on Cat. And then the second one was just insane to me. I do not understand how you overturn that call. And if people want to see it, go to I posted about it on whatever social media you follow me. I don't understand how that is overturned. And that is just like, I have never understood how Cat is officiated. I never will. My relationship with the refs as someone who covers the league has grown much better the past couple of years just because the Cat insanity has left the team. But so he picks up 2 early fouls, is pretty much non-existent because of that in the first half. And I think what was interesting is I think we were all prepared for MSG to just be this wild, crazy atmosphere that wasn't going to let the Spurs win. And up until halftime of Game 4, the building was more or less just an incredibly weird mood.
Yeah.
In Game 3, I would point that at the president being there. I think Trump threw, and it wasn't just, I mean, it was the security around it. The people had to get their hours early. Like all of that in Game 3, I thought contributed to just the vibe being off.
It's really hard to like day drink and then stand in a line for 3 hours to get into a game and then sit next to like Howard Lutnick and have fun. Like, I just think it was a tough vibe.
Yeah. And I think in Game 4, obviously Trump's not there anymore. But I think the officials, or maybe just it's not even to blame the officials, but like, just like Cat picking up 2 early fouls. The Knicks, despite having a 23-6 first half free throw advantage, their fans were not happy about the officiating, and I thought that threw the vibes off until the second half, where obviously Cat he finishes with 13 points. He doesn't have any spectacular plays. He probably won't win Finals MVP because OG and Jalen Brunson had more of like the signature plays, but he finishes with a game high plus 17, and it's so clear to me that he's like, they're maybe not the best player on the court, but I think he's the Knicks' most valuable player in this series.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't. I don't have the like first second half splits on me, but like, it's just easily apparent. I should say I shouldn't have the first and second half splits on me because I'm watching these as a fan and not as like a psycho media person that like is analyzing everything. But like, you just. And then he's playing on Wemby, and the shift is just there. Like, Wemby is just all of a sudden struggling. He's not hitting the shots. He's not attacking the same way. And I mean, you mentioned the Cat, like, again, 2 fouls taken out of the second half completely, has 3 turnovers, has some of his like, the Cat like looks at the refs where he just looks like he's about to blow a gasket. But then, I mean, he's 4 of 5 for 13 points, still pulls down 10 rebounds, pretty much all in the second half, plays awesome defense on Wemby, plays inside his role, which, I mean, when you got a guy like Brunson who's cooking and you got a guy like OG who's kind of helping that surge back, kind of the last thing you want is Cat to go hero ball and be like, oh, this is my moment. And I think if Cat never gets traded to the Knicks and he never has to kind of go through like this stage of his life, I don't know if he's cool taking 5 shots in a game 4 of a finals at home. Like, I think there might be a moment or two where he gets the ball on a swing and he's just driving instead of moving the ball to the next passer, or he gets the ball up top and he's forcing a shot instead of moving it again. And those are things like you'll never be able to prove, right? But like, I do think this is not the same like mentality of Cat that we had in Minnesota. And it's really cool to see. Like, it's really cool to see a guy come in the second half after a pretty miserable first half and just be like, nope, I am going to be the best role player on the team. And again, I credit to Cat. That's incredibly hard to do when you're a star in the league. Cause you know, if the Knicks lose this game, if that tip in goes out, everyone is just dogging on Cat today. How do you only take 5 shots in game 4 of a finals? How do you have those fouls, 3 turnovers? Like, that would be the narrative today, is he let the team down. But I honestly think like he did everything right in that second half and in you know, with the foul trouble that he had.
Yeah, I do think Cat is playing a lot more mature basketball than his average sense in Minnesota. I do think he started to improve that, especially in the playoffs in that 2020, his last postseason in Minnesota. It guards Durant in the Phoenix series and they sweep him out, and it's awesome in the closeout game 4. Guards Jokic for 6 of the 7 games. The one he doesn't, Jokic just destroys the Wolves in game 5, and he guards them and is their leading scorer again in game 7. Tied with Jaden McDaniels, but I always say Cat because Jaden had more garbage time free throws in that game than Cat did, so I give Cat the leading scorer there. But yeah, I don't know. It's impossible to know if this level of Cat would have been there in Minnesota. And specifically, yeah. I would say no in terms of with Rudy. And it's not that it's not Rudy's fault. It's not even the Wolves' fault. I kind of think the Wolves didn't feel like Cat could do this as the center of the team, rightly or wrongly. Yeah. And I don't know if they're right about that, or I don't know if the Wolves are right about that. Obviously, I think they're end up being wrong, but I don't know if I think sometimes guys just need a change of scenery. And unfortunately, I think Cat might have needed that to go to a different city, to go to a different, and it's not even to blame anyone on Minnesota side. I just think it's hard when, I mean, look, Cat never got, like, as far as franchise players go, Cat never really got the full on praise that he probably should have. Even now, like, the Wolves don't make any Western Conference Finals if Cat requests a trade in the season or two after Jimmy blows up the team. They just don't. Yep. Like, that's such a big, as much as we all want to bag on Julius or whatever, like, they needed every bit of value to keep Cat here. And if they had liquidated him for picks back in 2019 or 2020, they don't get there. So Cat deserves that. But like, when he was here, he never, and even last year with the Knicks, like, he's a polarizing guy. And I've always been, I call him a Cat Bobo. Like, I've always been full on with Cat. I kind of always felt like this was in him, and he would grow out of the straight voltage or whatever you want to call it. And it's been really, really cool to see him to play like this, especially the first 2 games of this series where he was just freaking incredible. If the MVP was awarded after the first 2 games, Cat absolutely deserves it. Maybe still does. Yeah. Is there anything else that you've learned kind of from a Wolves lens about this series, Cat or otherwise?
Yeah. The other thing I have just held back on clapping at people on Twitter is just like the who won the trade thing, that it's now the Knicks have won the trade and the Wolves were stupid to trade Cat, and all of these kind of narratives that have already taken up my entire feed. Like,
well, the Knicks won the trade because they're going to win the title.
Right. The Knicks won the trade.
Like,
That
who
is
cares?
correct.
Like,
It is what it is. Like that is the reality of sports. If you do a trade and you win the title, you win it. But like the Wolves had to trade Cat. Like they had to. If you're not trading Cat, you're trading Rudy, and you're probably having to still lose Nikhil. Maybe you lose somebody else. Like he's making almost $60 million. Like if you have Cat on this team making 60, Ant making 50, Jaden making 28, that's your team. Like now you just have randos coming off the bench because you just don't have the cap space to form a roster. So like if the Wolves never win a title and Anthony Edwards in like 2032 requests a trade and like, you know, it's just over in 5 years, like then I think you can go back and say like trading Cat was the worst idea because like F it. Who cares about the salary cap flexibility? Like if you have Cat, Ant, and Jaden, that might have been enough. Like that's the turning, the like revolving doors moments or whatever cliche you want to use. But like, I feel like you can't just objectively say trading Cat was a bad decision until we see how the next 3 or 4 years run out. Because again, like if they kept Cat and traded Rudy that offseason, there's still like a $12 million salary cap difference between those two. Like, I don't know how they retain Nas. I don't know what they do. Like you don't have Dante, who is so huge for this team. You probably don't have the IO trade chip. Maybe Rob's better. Like there's a lot of questions about it, but like there's still a lot to be written. I mean, if they end up trading Julius for like, I mean, Lord knows Kyrie Irving is being brought up every 13 seconds. Like if they trade Julius and TJ for Kyrie Irving and they win the title next year, then it's probably a wash that the trade worked out both ways. But I just think there's a lot left to be written before we can be like, they never should have traded Cat. That was the dumbest decision in franchise history.
yeah, I largely agree with you. I would maybe push back a little bit on they had to trade Cat in the sense of like you watch what he's doing in this series. If he would have been worth what they paid for him. What I will say is the nuance you then went with is what I would say especially is like it's not just the package because of the second apron. And if you want to complain about the second apron, if people want to do that, I'm all for that. I'll hop on that bandwagon with you. But it wasn't just that you were like the straight up Julius, Dante, and the pick that became Baron J for Cat. Like in and of itself, I think at the time it was good value, and you can make the case that it soured kind of on the negative end, especially with how Julius has played. And if you really want to play with the result, the unfortunate Dante injury really makes that tough. But like you said, they would have lost Nas if they had kept him, or they would have had to like salary dump Rudy to keep Nas and or Nikhil. I think if they keep their team the same, I've kind of looked into it. They probably could have gotten Nikhil back and let Nas go and stayed under the second apron. They would have been, if everything plays out the same, if they would have then traded Mike, they would have still been over the first apron, so they wouldn't have been able to make the exact IO trade they made. But if you take Julian Phillips out of the trade, then they could have made that trade. So there's a lot of different moving parts there. But like, I think, like I mentioned, the Knicks win the trade, but who cares?
Yeah.
Like from a Wolves perspective, who cares? It's the same thing that happened with Andrew Wiggins. Yes, the Warriors won the Wiggins trade because they won the title. Like, but I still would have done that trade, especially once you flip D'Lo for Mike and Nikhil. And I think I'm still more like up in the air of like, would I go back and repeat the Cat trade? I'm really like on the fence about it. And I think next week on my pod I'll kind of dive deeper into that, really figuring out what I feel. But like, I don't think it's a disaster. That's kind of more where I would land. The Rob Dillingham trade is far more a disaster than the Cat one was to me. I think if you wanted this type of Cat, I think you got to go back to the Gobert trade. Could you redo that or trade those picks for more of a wing type player? If you're unloading picks, I don't know. That's all the it's almost impossible to know what goes on from there. But yeah, I think it's people are really hammering the Wolves. Shout out Jordan from Crunch wears no pants on. Just if people are, I would push back on that. But I think there's room to be a little bit like, man, I don't know if the Wolves. I don't think the Wolves believed Cat could do this, and that on some level deserves criticism because he's doing it, and they could have. They had that guy. They had no chance of beating Wemby in their series, and they had on their roster 2 years ago what seems like the perfect type of player to go against Wemby.
Absolutely. And again, the other thing I would just say is like OG misses that layup. We're having a completely different conversation about Cat today, which that is incredibly unfair. That's why sports are fun, but it's also kind of the reality of like OG misses the layup. 2-2 going back to San Antonio. They just knocked the New York out on their home floor both games. Like it's a different conversation, but super happy for Cat. Like I just everything I hear is he's just was an unbelievable person to everyone on the Wolves staff, all the reporters, great for the city. Like really happy that he's going to be, I mean, he's a Jersey kid? Like that's going to be dope to hold up a trophy on a parade in New York and be kind of the hometown kid.
Yeah, and like you, I did cover a little bit of that 2024 series with the Credential. The next season after Cat was gone was the first time I, quote unquote, full time or more of a consistent basis was covering the Wolves in person. But yeah, I was there for games 3 and 4 out in Phoenix, and I was there for game 7 out in Denver. And I just thinking about that time, it was just like you could feel the validation coming off of Cat at that time. And I'm sure this is just even another level. You can see it in his face after these games. Like it's been just an incredible long road for that guy to get to this point. And I get the Minnesota sports doomerism or whatever that's going to come when they'll compare this to Kevin Love and Garnett and Wiggins and David Ortiz. Whoever else you want to, AJ Przinsky, if you really want to dive deep into the bag, like
Sam Darnold. Like, man, it's happened twice.
There you go. Yeah, the Sam Darnold one that one's way more rough than this Cat thing. But like even I that's just not how I'm watching this series, especially just knowing the intricacies of the Cat trade and the aprons and whatever else. It wasn't as look, I think they deserve criticism for it, but like I don't think if they have Cat on this roster, they win the title either last year or this year. So it's credit to the Knicks. And I think my last quick takeaway from this series is I don't think the Thunder or the Spurs are unbeatable as maybe it seemed like when the Wolves took this Spurs team to 6 games with Ant had half a knee, half of 2 knees. They had no Dante, and like the fact that the Wolves, I get that one of the games they win, Wemby decapitates Naz Reid, and he had another. I didn't think that the flagrant he had tonight was necessarily warranted, but I also thought he should have. Wemby should have gotten one on the Brunson thing in game 3, so maybe it all balances out. But yeah, I don't think it's as like daunting as a. I mean, it is daunting. The Spurs and Thunder will be really good for a really long time, but like I'm more fall into the camp of, I think if you can refigure this roster with the same level of talent to one that fits better, I don't think think watching the Spurs and Thunder play a little bit. I think the Wolves are obviously a good gap behind them, but it's not. You're not climbing Mount Everest here, I don't think.
Yeah, I think Wolves fans can look back at that Spurs series and do quite a bit of what ifs of like, what if Io's heel and ankle was good? What if Ant had 2 knees instead of 0 knees? What if Julius wasn't dealing with whatever Julius was dealing with? Like, I think Wolves fans coming into next season, whatever they do to kind of pivot, which I'm still more on the conservative thing. Like when the report came out saying they're not actively pursuing Giannis as hard, I was like, yeah, that kind of checks out. Like they seem to really like Jaden McDaniels, and you know who the Bucks would want? Probably Jaden McDaniels. I think they're just going to make this team fit and look better, and then hopefully guys like Ant, Jaden, Nas, Io take the steps that they need to, whether it's, you know, keeping their body ready or whether it's, you know, playing a little bit smarter. But yeah, I'm kind of leaving this too of just like, yeah, Oklahoma City doesn't quite scare me as much after watching the Spurs OKC series, and then the Spurs, just watching them get kind of thumped by New York here. Like, I I also think the Wolves, like, if they would have made it to the finals, like, Rudy gives Cat hell. Like, Ant, no one on that team would be able to guard him. I mean, you see Castle and Vassell kind of getting these open looks. Like, Jaden would be in that off-ball role. Like, I do think there are some things from a Wolves fan perspective to be, like, optimistic about, of like, okay, they're not that far off. They're still a tier below, but it's not like, you know, they're sitting there on the C team and the Spurs, Knicks, and OKC are the A team.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's obviously fair to say the Knicks are a good deal better than the Timberwolves, and Spurs and Thunder fall in that category. Other than that, I mean, I think you can take your pick who you thought was the fourth best team in the NBA this year, and I think the Wolves probably would. I would probably put the Wolves in that spot. Yeah. I thought, obviously, I think Detroit and Cleveland fans would probably push back against that, and I would be like, okay, have fun in the Junior Baby Funland conference, like. You've went up against an actual half decent team and they wipe the floor with you. But, yeah. And I just think like the level of like problem solving that the Knicks have been able to show to do, like that analytical mindset, like whatever they have, I think the Wolves could use some of that, and they'll need some of that if they're able to win. And maybe the biggest, like the pushback against like the mountain isn't as tall as like, well, you got to beat both the Spurs and the Thunder just to make the finals. And so, that's probably who knows if the Knicks come out of the West, if they have to face OKC after beating this Spurs team. But with how they've played, I wouldn't doubt them.
Which my pushback to that for next year would be the same thing you've been harping on every single season that I've known you, is get the 1 or 2 seed. Then you don't have to play both of them.
Well, you
take
probably
the regular
still will, because
seriously.
That for sure. And 1 seed, but the problem is I think you have to get all the way up to the 1 seed, because if you're the 2 seed, I think the Spurs of the Thunder will just be the 3 seed and the other one will be the 1 seed, and you're still going to have to play them both. So yeah, I think I definitely agree with you. The take the regular season seriously, like the stuff they said after the season was just insane, because I feel like I was screaming about it in December. Like, yep. What do you mean you're bored? What do you mean? We have like 5 more months of this. It's Thanksgiving.
You can't be bored already. You're not even in the playoffs yet. Like,
it was like, it was definitely like mid-January, and it was like, yeah, we're just kind of waiting for the All-Star break. It's like, that's in a month. What?
Nas said that. He was like, you know, just kind of the slog of the season. And you and I both left the locker room and we're like, the slog of the season? It's December. Like, what are we doing? It hasn't even been a slog yet. We're still excited.
Goodness. I think it doubly annoying, because like they said in the preseason, oh, we're gonna do this differently. We're not gonna get, and they lied, or well, yeah, they lied, because Finch called them liars. So then I usually don't call people liars, but Finch did. So.
Yeah, I don't think Finch lied. I do think the players were like, yeah, we're going to run all the way to the corners on fast breaks, and we're going to play extra hard on defense. And then like 3 weeks into the season, it's like, yeah, okay, so none of that's happening. And I guess they were just telling Finch behind closed doors, like, hey, we're going to be ready come playoffs. And to their credit, that Nuggets upset, I mean, depending on what Denver does this offseason, like they might have just ended that iteration of the Nuggets, which that is an accomplishment. I'm not a big like moral victory person. That being said, that is an accomplishment. And if they were healthy, who knows what they could do against the Spurs. But also, let's take the regular season a little bit more seriously, so you can, you know, put yourself in a position where you're not having to like desperation play the last 10 games of the season to try and not be in the play-in.
Yeah, and that's a good point. The Denver series was incredibly impressive. Was a testament to all the good aspects of this Wolves team, and pretty much, and we'll lob in game one of the Spurs series in there as well. And pretty much everything else was kind of the bad parts of the Wolves, like the regular season combined with the last 5 games of the Spurs series. Because even though they won Game 4 after the Wemby elbow, that was not an impressive. That was a, oh god, our season is dissolving. Save our butts type of win in Game 4. But yeah, I'm interested to see what they do this offseason, and I'm kind of at a loss, like from a podcast sense, of what to talk about, because I don't know what they're gonna do. It's always like, I get people want to break out the trade machines and trade 5 players to 5 different teams and get, it's like, I don't know if it works that way, but I expect something to happen. They're not just gonna re-sign Io, fill the rest of the roster, and go from there, which is more or less what they did last offseason. I think the front court will look different, and I think they'll try to make a big trade that makes, like, trading one of Jaden or Nas. Like, they'll look at that. You mentioned Giannis might not be the only player that makes unloading, especially Jaden, but yeah, I don't know what they're gonna do, but I know it'll, on some level, it'll look different, because it has to, right?
Yeah, it does. I've during Julius's time here, I've probably earned myself more of like a Julius defender rap of, like, his first season here, I often said, like, Julius is the guy on this team that's had to sacrifice the most. Like, he's normally shooting 20 times a game, scoring 30 points, and now he's kind of giving it up for the betterment of the team to be more of a facilitator. This season, I just think it probably sucked. Like, you're playing as a ISO dominant power forward next to Anthony Edwards, who, frequently, I'm sure, Finch calls something on the whiteboard, and then Ant just goes, "Nah, I'm gonna cook." And that's probably really frustrating to play with, whether you're Jaden, whether you're Julius, whether you're anyone. And, it eventually got to a point where it just seemed like it was untenable. I mean, whether it was in the playoffs, at close to the regular season, like, it just seemed like a dude that was not having a ton of fun playing basketball, which, fair. When you're in trade rumors all season, the fan base kind of turns on you, and you're playing outside of your preferred play style. Like, yeah, that probably sucks. So I look at it of, like, you look at kind of the on-court vibe, and then you look at, Julius not doing the exit interviews, not being on the jersey promo package, all of that stuff. Like, I think there's enough to read into where it's like, yeah, he's probably going to get moved pretty quickly, whether that's like a draft night or soon thereafter trade. Honestly, outside of Julius, though, I don't think there's anything I would look on this team and say, like, oh, that guy's for sure going to be moved, or they're for sure going to try and move that guy. Like, I think if you get off of Rudy for really good value, you definitely kick the tires on it. But, like, the Ant, Jaden, Nas, Io, Johan, TJ, like, 6-man under 26 core, as Tim Connolly called them, like, that's a really good foundation to build around. So, like, if you just move Julius, potentially move Rudy, and just bring in guys that are a little bit, basketball IQ, smarter, good decision makers, organized, good team, like, effort guys, and you kind of put a team that makes more sense around them, I wouldn't be surprised if that's the team that rolls out for the first game, and just see how that goes. Again, they have enough ammunition of young talent, like young guys that are semi-proven, that if that's a disaster and it starts poor, you can pivot at the deadline. But I again, short of Giannis being available and they don't have to give up Jaden, like, I don't see them making a massive swing. Like, our friend Jace Frederick has been on the Zion bandwagon, and, like, maybe that's a guy that fits better. DeJounte Murray, Kyrie Irving as kind of the point guards that keep getting floated out there. I think something at that level will happen, though, where you're just getting a different starter that makes more sense.
Yeah, I agree, and I kind of think there's even like if you remember, things were pretty toxic with D'Angelo Russell down the stretch of his time here, and this front office rolled with him for another half season before finding possibly the best trade in franchise history. I don't wouldn't even rule that out for Julius, like bringing him back next year and trying to recuperate some of his value and finding something at the deadline. I know fans will not like that idea probably, but it might be what has to happen. But that's enough talk about the men of the basketball players. I think, especially the old Minnesota Timberwolves. It's been a little bit nice, and I definitely felt this 12 months ago. It's a little bit nice to kind of move on from the Wolves and watch a team that is just kicking the ever loving ass out of everyone that they play against. And from my perspective, I kind of got a little after the offseason with the Lynx. I kind of got a little like, ooh, where's this headed? What they lose half their roster. Correct me or add one in if I'm Bridget Carlton gone in the expansion draft, Jess Shepard gone in the expansion draft. They lose. Who else did they lose?
Bridget left in the expansion draft. Masha Kluindakova left in the expansion draft. Jessica Shepard, Alana Smith, Natisha Heidemann, and Dejanay Carrington all left as free agents. And then they opted not to bring back Cam Taylor or Jalen Sherrod, who were kind of the end of the rotation. So all told, they had 9 players who have never played for the Lynx this decade on the team to start the regular season out of a roster of 14. So they had 5 returning players. 2 of them are still injured. So they have only had 3 players on the current roster playing basketball that were on this team last year.
Yeah, so you mentioned Dorka Juhas gets hurt down the stretch of the EuroLeague where she wins MVP, and Nafisa Collier, who didn't play in Unrivaled and has had ankle surgery on both ankles, correct? She's out. Yep. And then probably the biggest offseason kind of red flag was all the big stars in the league signed multi-year deals except for Nafisa Collier, who I think by league rules was not allowed to go to another team because they cored her or whatever. And Fee comes back with 1-year deal, and that's where it's like the red flags are really going off of like, does she want to leave? I'll just say it, speaking like behind the scenes, I've heard that this was before the season started, like that Fee really is exploring kind of not being on the Lynx past the season. And maybe that's changed in the past couple months as the Lynx have gotten off to this hot start. Certainly she's going to explore that idea. It seems like, and I've heard Fee's relationship with ownership isn't great. From my own personal thing, don't think that they loved that A-Rod went to the White House and met with Trump in the Oval Office. Don't think that they appreciated that much. So all of that for me kind of put a damper on what I thought the Lynx could do, even if I thought Cheryl was going to get them back to the playoffs and maybe they went around. But holy cow, have they completely blown my expectations out of the water. They are 10-2. They're leading the league in scoring. They are leading the league in defensive points against, in terms of they've given up the fewest points.
I have the list here if you want. Are you ready?
Please.
Best record in the league, best average victory, best plus minus, best offensive rating, best defensive rating, best net rating, they are the best effective field goal percentage, the best defensive field goal percentage against. They lead the league in 3-point percentage. They lead the league in true shooting. They lead the league in 3-point shooting against. They lead the league in points per game. They lead the league in rebounds per game. They are second in steals, second in offensive rebound percentage, second in rebound percentage, second in opposing points in the paint, third in assist ratio, third in blocks, third in assists, fourth in assisted turnovers, and they have committed the 5th least fouls in the league. There is no flaw in this team. Last year, you could point and say rebounding, that's an issue. There's nothing. They are literally perfect. I don't know what to say other than like this team. I mean, I even went through some of the other things. They have 3 players in the top 20 in scoring. No one is averaging over 30 minutes per game on this team other than K-Mac, who is averaging like 30.2 or something. They have 3 players in the top 20 of rebounding, including guard Courtney Williams. 2 players in the top 20 of assists, 4 players in the top 20 for steals, 6 players in the top 20 for plus minus. Natasha Howard leads the league in offensive rating. Olivia Miles leads the league in defensive rating. And those two are number 1 and 2 in net rating. Like, it is... They don't have Nafisa Collier, Ryan. Like, they are the best team in the league, bar none, statistically, analytically, advanced stats. You watch the games. They have 5 wins of 20 or more. 7 times this year, they've held opponents to under 40% shooting. Like, they are significantly better than last season's team that led the WNBA in wins, and they don't have the second best player in basketball playing for them yet. It's literally insane. It's insane.
Yeah, I mean, my expectations coming into the year was like, okay, Fee's out. They can try to go 500 while she's out, and then she comes back, and here we go. We'll try to make a run as one of the lower seeds. You bring Fee back, and you do have like your 3 best players from last year, and I think obviously they're way better than that. They are. Let's see. I looked the other night. They were second. They were second in title odds. Let's see if just for whatever, if Vegas wanted to bump that up to number 1 just to be nice to me. They have not. The Liberty are favored. It's a 3. They're tied. The Lynx and Aces are tied slightly behind the Liberty. So stop me if you've heard this before, but the 3 title teams going for the title appear to be the Liberty Aces and the Lynx, which has been the case for at least 3 years. And obviously the main player to start with is Olivia Miles, because she is just incredible. And there's a little bit of angst around her pick. I don't watch enough college basketball or international women's basketball to really know who they should have picked there. I mean, I do now. But like there was a little angst about not picking either of the bigs when they did. And it's only 12 games, and maybe it's important to point that out, but they clearly made the right pick there, because Olivia Miles she's going to win Rookie of the Year. I don't know. She locked that up 6 games ago, it feels like. And like she is if you voted, I think if she voted on the MVP award now, she'd finish like 2nd or 3rd, right? Like she has just been insane. Can you figure out how she's doing this? Because like 17.8 points per game, and maybe again 12 games, maybe some of these numbers, especially probably the scoring, I would imagine will maybe level out, maybe not. And she's shooting 53% from the field, 37% from 3, 6.3 assists, and an impressive 5.2 rebounds per game. Do you know how she's doing this in the first 12 games of her professional career?
I don't know how she's doing it. I can try to explain it. It's, part of it is, when they drafted her, Cheryl was like, there are 2 generational skills in this draft. And we've kind of since found out that Cheryl thought the other generational skill was AZ's shooting ability. The generational skill they picked, though, was Liv's ability to pass. And she felt very strongly that like that skill had been shown over and over and over and over enough to where she was like, that's going to translate to the league. And then everything else, she was just kind of like, we can work around it, right? Like if Liv ends up not shooting very well, we have Kayla McBride, Courtney Williams, Nia Coffey, Natasha Howard, and a bunch of like Euro players that are good shooters coming over here. If her defense isn't that good, we feel good enough about our like systematic like integrity that we're going to be able to help her along that way. I think what they didn't account for is just Liv is just like a computer. Like Lindsay Whalen was talking about it the other day, that like every day after film and practice, like Liv goes to get more film from Way to study. Like Cheryl's like, she practices as hard as anyone else on this team, and she takes criticism. Like if they find something wrong that she's doing, like it takes one time and it's fixed. And I think when you have somebody that behind the scenes is like that dedicated to the things that rookies usually aren't dedicated to. You usually don't hear rookies like going back to the film room to their positional coach saying like, I need more film, please. I think that stuff elevates her quite a bit. I mean, the other side of it is just, you know, we talked about all the players that left. Like the players that Cheryl has brought in are pretty, like they just fit with Olivia Miles. Like Natasha Howard's a really good pick and roll player that has been that way her entire career. She's really good at like resetting screens and just diving at the rim if they need a second screen. And Liv is like one of the best pick and roll readers in the league. Like Nia Coffey shot 40% 5 years ago for the Sparks. Atlanta didn't particularly use her the same way Cheryl is using her, and having Nia sitting on the wing on the opposite side of these pick and rolls for Liv has just been like the perfect outlet. And then you have Courtney Williams and Kayla McBride, who are both made the All-Star game next to her. Like it's just probably, I'd say 70% Liv is just an incredible like student of the game that wants to get better constantly and is incredibly talented. And then 30% like Cheryl must have just had an inkling that like, hey, this is the player we're drafting. We need to make sure this team is completely set up for her to take the keys as soon as she's ready. Um, I think the other side of that is like, you know, you mentioned like her points per game, assists, rebounds, all of that stuff. And like, you know, will they go down in that? Like, I think her shots will go down when Fee comes back, but I think she's going to get more productive because right now teams are starting to tinker with how they guard her. Like now they're starting to blitz her more off of pick and rolls. They're starting to just straight up double a rookie in their 12th game off of pick and rolls. And it takes like Liv 3 or 4 plays to figure it out, and then she's back to just like attacking or calling different audibles, and it works out. But like when Fee's back, like there's no world where Liv is going to be doubled. Like if you're doubling Liv when the Lynx are at full strength, that means one of Nafisa Collier, Courtney Williams, or Kayla McBride is going to be either completely open or half or guarded by a player that's trying to hedge between two players. Like I honestly, I've said it a few times on different appearances of just like, this is probably the worst we're going to see Olivia Miles in her career, and she might be the 5th best player in the league.
Yeah, I thought the most impressive game from her, um, for me watching, was the Golden State game where you mentioned them tinkering with defenses, tinkering with how they guard her, and I thought Golden State was just like, well, we're gonna go under, like that'll solve this, or at least it's worth a shot. And she goes up and she makes 8 of 11 threes, which to that point, if I can do quick math, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 9, 10, like she was 2 of like 18, I think, by my count, on threes going into that game. And it's not that I don't think anyone thought she was a bad shooter, couldn't shoot, but like if we're gonna give away something here, let's go under and make her shoot. And she just nailed everything in their face. And I think that is probably like tons of rookies have in every sport have gone out and just dominated early or whatever. But then it's like it's the next like, okay, now they adjust to you. What is your ability to adjust to them? And she's immediately like aced that test, and that's like, that was, I mean, obviously her first 9 games before that were impressive, but that game I was like, oh, this is going to be a special player.
Dallas decided, hey, every other team in the league is pretty much doubling K-Mac and like having someone glued to her at every second that she's on the court. How about we don't do that and we hedge off of her a little bit to protect the paint, and we're going to start doubling and like hard hedging Liv on these pick and rolls. And Liv figured it out in like 5 possessions and built a 27-point lead. Like it just immediately backfired, because then it's like they're just going to K-Mac every single play until eventually Dallas had to be like, okay, that's not going to work. We have to go back to guarding K-Mac and like single covering Liv. And then Liv and Natasha Howard take it over in the 4th quarter, and it's just kind of over. Like the ability, like some of it is coaching, right? Like some of it is Cheryl and Lindsay on the sideline saying like, hey, this is what we think you're going to get on these possessions. Like be prepared, yada, yada. But also just the processing speed of Liv of just like, okay, here's this coming. Now we have to go here. As soon as they start countering that, I have the next step. I mean, it's really impressive. Like I can be on, like, I've never seen a rookie do this, like in any men or women. It's just, it's dominant. And again, we started this segment talking about Fee. Like I had kind of heard the same thing, that Fee was really, I don't want to say like she had like one foot out the door or anything like that, but like she's coming off of dual ankle surgery. You don't know how you're going to recover from that. You don't know how many years left in your career you're going to have at your peak. And this Lynx team didn't look as potent as we now think it looks. So for Fee to take a 1-year deal of like, hey, if the Lynx suck this year, I'm out of here. Even though that's not what she directly said, like I do think that was part of the thinking of like, if this is what it is, Court, K-Mac, a rookie, and some random role players, like I'm out of here. I might go to Golden State. I might go, team up with somebody else. I think if you're Fee, seeing what Olivia Miles is doing with Natasha Howard, like we haven't been able to talk to her since training camp, but I imagine she is very excited to be back and playing on this team. And I think that helps them a ton in the offseason. Like I had Sirit Soe on my podcast last week, and we were kind of talking about just like, Fee's gonna do the whole wine and dine thing. Like, why wouldn't you go get a private jet ride from like the owners of the Valkyries and like go eat at a really nice steakhouse? But at the end of the day, I think you have Olivia Miles and the institutional stability of the Lynx that are going to be really hard to walk away from.
Yeah, I agree. And that's kind of my last question before we wrap up here. Maybe a 2-part question is like, have you gotten any indication? I know we speculated back when the Wolves were still playing, like when she could come back, but have they gotten any indication or given, I'm sure they know, but like, have they given any indication of when she's coming back? Because that whole thing has been, from the outside looking in, for me, been weird. It's been a weird situation with her injury status. And like, do you think, like, just watching this team dominate, like if she was not half foot out the door, but like if she was in her mind really entertaining potential options 12 months from now, has that died down, or will it die down with just watching how good this team has been?
I'll start with that one. I think it's died down considerably. Like even like when Fee had the NPR interview where she gave like the same answer she gave on media day and the same answer she gave on like her signing day, my phone was like blowing up of like,
she's gone.
Like rumors from like other beat reporters too of like, oh, Golden State has money, they're gonna go hard after her, like watch the trade deadline, like from every market. And I am getting none of those now. Like even when I have opposing beat writers on the podcast, it's kind of just assumed at this point that like, oh, Fee's gonna re-sign with the Lynx. That being said, like Fee has an incredibly close camp, kind of like Ant. Like there's not a lot of leaks out of Fee's camp, just like with Ant's camp there's not a lot that comes out because it's so tight knit that I don't think anyone really knows what's in her mind. But at least from like the reporting side, it has died down to like where no one's talking to me about Fee anymore, because just on paper, why wouldn't you want to be on this Lynx team? As far as her injury, they said at the beginning of the season that she'd be returning to basketball activities in early June. We ask Cheryl every single practice. Fee is wearing an ankle brace. I'm sure she loves
that.
Yeah, Fee is wearing an ankle brace and she is doing basketball activities, not with the team, but it's more like rehab stuff.
She looks fine doing the electric slide.
Yeah, I think they're playing it as cautiously as they can because like if they bring Fee back before she's absolutely 100%, 19 different doctors agree to it. Like, if they bring her back before then, it could be bad if she gets hurt again. So hopefully by the end of the month.
Here's what they won 8 in a row. You guys cannot ask Cheryl if she's coming back until they lose another game. Like, they don't need her. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they just keep winning every single game until infinity. Like, just it'll just be like, it'll be game 2. They lose game 2 of the W finals and it's 1-1. It's like, I think it's time to bring feedback here. Like, they just win. But you know what I'm saying? Like, they just keep winning. Like, I mean, in a big picture, like, they just don't need, they will need her obviously eventually, but like, they don't need her. They're just whooping up on teams.
I mean, they got the Aces on Saturday. I think that is, I hate the like, oh, this is the biggest test, because like when they played Golden State, that was the biggest test. And then they played Dallas and that's the biggest test. And now Saturday it's Vegas and that's the biggest test. And then the first time they play Indiana or New York, that'll be the biggest test. Like, it's always a moving goalpost. I do think this Aces game is going to show how much they might need Fee, though, because A'ja Wilson is incredible this season. Again, like, it is A'ja Wilson MVP, and then everyone else we're arguing on who's on the all W team. Like, she's phenomenal. So without Fee, you know, Natasha Howard's no joke. Nia Coffey's no joke. Ola Kosu has been going from a backup small forward to a center this year. I think this is going to be the game where it's like, okay, the no Dorka, no Fee is a problem when you're playing someone as talented as A'ja. But at the same time, like, Olivia Miles. At the same time, I don't really know how Vegas is going to be able to handle Liv or Court or K-Mac or what they've been doing. So I do think Saturday is going to be kind of the must-watch game of the weekend of just, like, how does this Lynx team stack up without Fee against the MVP? And if they go out and win that, then I think it's, like, what's going to stop this team? I mean, they're leading the league in everything. They're in the top third in every statistical category the league tracks. Like, it's really inexplicable. Talk about taking the regular season seriously.
Yeah. Well, I think the Wolves can probably take a lot of stuff from the Lynx, but that's where we're gonna wrap it up. Andrew, anything to plug with your work covering the Lynx and the Wolves?
Follow me on social, @DukeMN. Written works over on Zone Coverage, usually a Lynx and a Wolves piece every week, and then missing post-game live stream is the Missing Lynx for the Lynx, Missing Wolves for the Wolves. Kyle Tigey joining me next weekend to talk some Olivia Miles, so that'll be fun.
Awesome. Yep, everyone go check out Dukowitz, and we'll probably have Andrew back on around Summer League or draft, or who knows what the future will have in store. But next week I'll have another podcast for everyone, probably breaking down the finals. Hopefully, good chance Kat is a NBA champion by then. But till then, thank you everyone for listening. Go Wolves.
Ayoo!